See you today. Good afternoon, good evening, good night, good morning. And today I'm continuing my live stream series on Spring Data Neo4j and Angular, and more particularly building an application with an Angular frontend and Spring Data Neo4j 6 backend. And today we'll talk about Cipher DSL, which is a project I will go into more details shortly after a few usual announcements. If you've been following the series, it should come to no surprise. And then we'll dive straight into the code and the documentation, because we're going to learn about Cipher DSL together. So let me share my screen. And here we go. So as I've been telling for a few weeks now, but in case you're not aware, we're organizing, Neo4j is organizing Notes 2021. So if you are not familiar with the Notes conferences, it's an occasion to bring developers from all backgrounds and talk about their experience with Neo4j in one way or another. So it's going to happen on 17th of June, as you can read on the website, so neo4j.com/notes-2021. So feel free to register. The sooner, the better, so you have more chance to get a seat. And so that's one part. Of course, we would love to see you there. So I'm going to share the link. And if you feel like it, it would be even better to submit a talk. But the clock is ticking. You don't have much time left to do that. So you should hurry a little bit if you have not done a submission already, because the call for papers will close around 5th of April. So in UTC, which is close to my time, it will be towards the end of the day of April 5. And, as long as you're willing to share your experience with Neo4j in one way or another, you're more than qualified to do so, and we would be so happy to read your submission and possibly accept it. I mean, we all hope that your submissions will be accepted, so that you'll be able to share your contents with the wide audience of Notes 2021. And another announcement that I wanted to do, I actually haven't done it before, but I'm also, and that's more on a personal level, also there's going to be some Neo4j content as well, of course. There is a conference I organize every year. It's the third year in a row that we do that. A second year in a row, sadly, that we have to do it completely virtual. It's called Hack Commit Push. And Hack Commit Push is, in short, one-day-long open source and free projects hackathon, free open source project hackathon. So if you go to Paris 2021.hack-commit-pu.sh, so I will share the link because it's easier to share than to say it. You can already register. It's completely free. It's happening on 29th of May, so it's a Saturday, so that it's easier for everyone. You don't have to take any days off to participate. And we have a few open source projects already, and the list is growing every day, so we're changing it quite regularly. I'm just going to give you some examples. Like, if you want to start contributing to OpenJDK, we'll have Remy Forax, who is a JDK expert, who will be more than happy to accompany you on this. We will have opportunities to contribute to various Maven plugins, for instance, if you want to get more experience with that. I'm currently in discussion with some of my colleagues at Neo4j, and there should be some Neo4j related projects soon. So just hang in there, and we will publish some updates with regards to that. But as you can see, there are a variety of projects, documentations, like for the Kubernetes project, for instance, if you want to do that. A game engine even, maintained by Almas, etc., etc. So there are a variety of projects. There's going to be more announced soon. So just head to the website, and we'll be happy to see you there. It's completely free, and it's a great opportunity to start contributing to open source projects. And something I want to mention as well, the first half of the day, there are optional trainings, like if you want to reinforce your skills on Git and or Neo4j, there will be trainings about that, so that you will feel more comfortable contributing to projects in the afternoon. I mean, Git is quite common in various open source projects. Neo4j might be useful as well for some Neo4j projects that we're going to announce later. So that's it on Hack Commit Push. That's more of a personal thing, really. But yeah, I'm happy to say there will be Neo4j related projects, so it's a great opportunity. You don't have to be an expert. On the contrary, we have various levels of attendees, various experience levels. So even if you're just beginning, you're more than welcome to attend. And it's virtual. Also, it's biased towards Europe. I mean, around Europe in terms of time zone, but we would be super happy to see you there. So feel free to grab a ticket. I'm going to share the two links. I forgot to share the CFP of Note 21. And that one, Hack Commit Push. So full day hackathon, completely for free with great project leads. So it's a great opportunity to learn to contribute to open source and possibly some Neo4j projects as well. And okay, that was the announcement I wanted to do. Now let's go back to our application. So the front end is a bit on hold because I had some weird issue 2 weeks ago, and I haven't taken the time to try to resolve them. But let's go back to the backend. So last week I introduced the Liquibase plugin for Neo4j. So that's where I can run migrations. So we have these migrations, for instance. So I know it looks weird that it says SQL while it's actually Cipher, but that's because Liquibase is historically a project for relational databases. It just happens now that I developed a plugin for Neo4j, so Cipher queries are fully supported. So I have two simple migrations for now, one on uniqueness of transport, and then the transport themselves, because we don't have any other. For now, there is only HTTP and Bolt when we're talking about connectors for Neo4j. So that's the two we need, and we can create them beforehand. That's good enough for now. And I reviewed, oh, I just noticed the HTTP links. That's not great, it should be HTTPS, but something I can change later. And the configuration, I reviewed it a little bit. I improved it a tiny bit. Instead of repeating values like I did last week, I just reused some of the things. So in that case, it's for the JDBC URL, because the Liquibase plugin under the hood, given its bias towards relational databases, it makes more sense to reuse the existing JDBC driver. So the URL is the same, there is just its prefix, username, password is the same as the one for Spring Data Neo4j. And then given I overrode the default location, I had to explicitly set it, but by default it uses another folder. And also I added this comment in case you want to use something like a cluster, a local one or somewhere else, you can use the Neo4j scheme. And in that case, you will need the specific JDBC driver instance. So that's it for migrations. Now I want to start using Cipher DSL. But what is Cipher DSL, you might ask, right? So let's see. You know what? Let's do what anyone would do. Let's start with the documentation. Cipher, oops, DLS, nice. Anyway, thank you, Google. So Neo4j Cipher DSL, what's the purpose? The purpose is to have type-safe queries, right? Because with strings all over the place, it's quite easy to make typos, to forget some non-optional formatting spaces, etc., etc. So that can be quite annoying. I mean, once you got it working, it's great, but it's not always super maintainable. And so the idea of Cipher DSL is to have some kind of user-friendly, type-safe method API to build gradually Cipher queries and run them. And obviously, given the history of Cipher DSL, which has been created and extracted from SDN-RX, and maybe I can take a minute to explain what SDN-RX is. SDN-RX was, and I emphasize on was a prototype So after Spring Data Neo4j 5, the Spring Data Neo4j team, so my colleagues, Michael Simons and Gerrit Meyer, took some time to experiment a more reactive approach. And that experiment was published for a while and called SDN-RX. And then I was about to say they pivoted, but not really. Then they went back to Spring Data Neo4j, and based on the learnings and the code of SDN-RX, they created Spring Data Neo4j 6, which is the version I've been showing for the last few weeks. And this Cipher DSL thing was actually part of SDN-RX initially. They just extracted it. So now it's a completely standalone project that we can use with or without relation to Spring Data Neo4j 6. If you just need a simple Bolt Java driver, and you want to have type-safe queries, you can use Cipher DSL as well. It's not tied to Spring Data Neo4j at all. So you can use it in a standalone way. But of course, if you're using Spring Data Neo4j 6, there are some integration points, obviously, between the two projects. And I might be able to show that today. I'm learning, I'm also learning just as you. So we're learning it together, and we'll try to see what we can do with it. And so let's get started then. Prepare dependencies. So first, I need this dependency there that will add me the DSL project, so I can start using the APIs. So let's do that. Also, the font is huge for me. It's probably good for you because you can read it, but for me, it's so hard. Oh, and by the way, things also, while I was talking about Liquibase and adding migrations to the project, I just added everything to runtime. So I need the JDBC starter, Liquibase itself, and the plugin, which will be released soon. By the way, I'm cheating and using a snapshot here, but I will use a released version once it's released, which will happen hopefully soon. So I only need that on runtime. Migrations, I don't compile anything. So let's add our friend Cipher DSL, which is the latest release of it. It's using a quite different format to your versions you usually see. It's called Calver, which is funny because calvaire in French means something quite painful. So can I see it? Oops. Maybe like this, calver.org. Basically, it's an alternative to semantic versioning. It's based on calendar, basically. So you've got the year, the month, etc. So yeah, that's and all the Spring projects have adopted this early last year. And so given the closeness of Cipher DSL and the Spring projects, it made sense to adopt the same kind of versioning there as well. Cool. So we have the dependency, but what can we do with it? So how to use it? Let's see. So let's have a look at an example. So here are all the import I'm going to need at some point, but I'm not going to reuse the whole examples, but at least there seems to be some kind of Cipher node movie named. So I can create a node, as a part of my Cipher statement, give it an alias, and then return it directly. So basically, this code here, once you build it, it will generate the equivalent string. It will generate, once you render it, sorry, so the statement here is still an object. It's not a string object. It's actually this statement object. You can render it with a default renderer, and it will give you a string, which is a valid Cipher query. Nice. So just to make sure we didn't mess anything up. So I might not be able to use var because I guess I'm not using. Oh, maybe yes. We'll see. So for now, let's just do something very temporary, just just so that we get the idea. So I'm just gonna cheat a little bit. So I'm gonna, boom, remove that, take that, and so Cipher renderer is explained a bit earlier, I believe. Yes. Sorry about that. And the renderer is this one. So hopefully, yeah, let me maybe reload this. Boom. So that the class path is updated with Cipher DSL. So I need a renderer. So Yes, import renderer, get default renderer. That gives me a Cipher renderer. If I stick to the example, then I have this class. Let me move that here. Movie, and we're just gonna do a simple println just to make sure it works. It should work, right? Otherwise, I might be missing something obvious, but we never know. So yeah, let's replace our actual Spring Boot entry point with a simple main here, and hopefully that should be just fine. Or maybe I need to comment out a Spring Boot application, but I don't think so. We'll see. Boom. Okay, so I get the statement. It seems to work fine. No class path conflicts, nothing weird like that. So cool. So based on that, what can I do? Especially given I'm a Spring Data Neo4j context, how can I use these kind of things to actually maybe, instead of using a raw string, so in my case, the project is still quite simple, but we will introduce another API endpoint just for fun, to be honest, just to exercise a little bit our Cipher DSL brain. Because for now, I just have a simple save, which is completely understood and managed by the framework. So we'll come up with an example of Cipher DSL. So, okay, so there is a few new things like the static meta model. I might come back to that later, maybe in another session. If you really dig Cipher DSL, I think you should dig it because it's great. But otherwise, I will just stick to the basics right now. So let's go to the reference docs. And if you haven't created the document, I mean, it's true for any Spring project. So reference documentation is just great. So spend an hour reading it thoroughly, 1 hour, 2 hours, and then you will save days of randomly trying things and not understanding what's going on. I really encourage it. That's what I did the first time I learned about Spring Framework, Spring MVC. It's really well detailed, and Spring Data Neo4j is not an exception here. It's well documented, design decisions as well, which are quite important, especially when moving from Spring Data Neo4j 5 to Spring Data Neo4j 6, which I should probably cover next week. Not exhaustively, but some of the gotchas at least. So that's super important. So why do I land on this particular section? I don't know. But let's look, I'm going to be a bit lazy. I'm going to look for DSL, query DSL, which is another general purpose DSL, a bit overlapping with Cipher DSL, but Cipher is more specialized to Neo4j, obviously. So query DSL, there is generic support in all of Spring Data projects, I believe. So this is still part, this part of the documentation here is part of the global Spring Data thing. So every Spring Data project includes those. The actual specifics of Spring Data Neo4j starts with section 6. But it's still great to read the first blocks. So really take some time to do it. You won't regret it. Take some time to read the docs. The docs are well explained. They read great. And I'm saying that as a non-native English speaker, right? So please try it. So Cipher DSL. Come on, I want to see it. Maybe I can. Cipher DSL, yes. So we have an example here of a statement. Oh, nice. You can see that Neo4j template supports statement. So yeah, maybe let's move away from repositories for a while and try to use Neo4j template in that case. So what about introducing a query? So what do we have so far, in case it's the first time you watch the stream, it's the first time you see the series? We have connectors. Connectors have URI, like a GitHub project URI or a GitLab project or what have you, whether it's official or not. When official in the Neo4j context, refer to the 5 official Bolt drivers, so Java, JavaScript, Go, .NET, and Python, and what kind of transports they support. So transport being either HTTP or Bolt, because in context of Neo4j there is nothing. I mean, okay, there are actually maybe a few things we could talk about here, but to be brief, let's say that those are the only two that matters. And yeah, and what versions, which make more sense for Bolt more than HTTP, because Bolt is version from 1.2.3.4.0 for 1.4.2 and for 3 soon. So that's more relevant. So maybe that's not the best design ever. I confess, versions is not super relevant when the other transport is used, but it can remain empty in that case. And so what can we do with that? I was thinking, obviously, repository is super powerful. We can do things like, and there is auto-completion support in IntelliJ, so that's great, like find by, and then it can auto-complete, find by what, find by ID, find by URI, for instance, containing something. We could do something like this. And we could do and and I don't know, supported transport. I don't know, contain, can I do this? Contains and a specific transport. But that works well. So it's the first thing you should try. Like, can I have the repository proxy implementation deal with the query? I don't want to do it myself. That's the first thing you should try. So of course, the more complex it is, the longer the name is. So there are some limits. So obviously, the second best idea is to use a query, a specific one. And let's see, query. You can see it takes a string. So that's not nice because we want to use Cipher DSL. So we could actually, we could somehow try to use Cipher DSL in there. I'm not even sure that would work well, given the main here. Like if I go back to this, I needed a renderer. Oops, what did I do? Yes, build, and maybe there is some kind of get Cipher. So I could imagine something like this. I'm not sure that would really work, right? Because I believe they need to be constant strings. So I guess if I try something like this, again, M, what is M? And M would be, yeah, so that's not great. Returning something. So here, returning could take a string, so I could cheat and say that. But as you can see, attribute value must be constant. So that's not an option. So we could use, we could do that. We could try the naming convention of Spring Data and try to find the right combination of words to generate the query we want. We could try a specific query, but we would have to use strings, which are of course error prone, and that's something we want to avoid. And then, so we have other options. Obviously, you don't have to use a repository when you cannot, when the context doesn't make sense. So we can use Neo4j templates, which is entity aware, and Neo4j client as well, which are a bit lower level, but offers more flexibility. And finally, we can also use a raw Java driver, but then of course you lose all the higher level abstractions of entities, etc., etc. So that's not, we probably won't go as down as using the raw Java Bolt driver. So let me get rid of all the imports. So as I was telling you, we were checking the docs real quick. We can see that Cipher DSL is supported by Neo4j template, so that's great. So maybe, my idea of a query was to try to match connectors by language and transport. Like, hey, I want to know if there is a Bolt connector for Ruby or PHP or Erlang, or an HTTP connector for R, for instance. So obviously, I don't have the language data just yet. For GitHub stuff, I could probably try to use the GitHub API. When you go to a GitHub project, let's go to Cipher DSL, for instance, because we're talking about this. You see there is this, there is language stats. Oh yeah, languages, for instance, 100% Java. So we could imagine if we detect that it's a GitHub project, try to contact the GitHub API and get some stats on the languages and take maybe the first one, which is a better proxy than what I'm about to do today. And so my idea today, instead of doing this, because it would take some time and would not be super interesting to deal with the nitty-gritty details of GitHub API consumption, we will do what we will do. We will basically, so that's super fragile. And again, that's not something I'm gonna push. It's just something I want to do today to get familiar with Cipher DSL. I'm just gonna see whether the language appears in the project name, I mean, in the URI. Like for instance, if I take Neo4j PHP, I can see there are some projects in there, like Neo4j PHP client. So hey, like say, hey, there is PHP in the name, so it must be a PHP project. Obviously, that's super fragile. That's not a great approach. But so yeah, that's something I'm gonna do, something like that. And of course, we're gonna test drive it, because why wouldn't we? And so I'm gonna introduce a service here because the repository is already taken, or I could extend, yeah, actually, let's try that. It's been a while I haven't done this. You can actually define a specific fragment, a specific implementation fragment, and aggregate it to the repository interface. It's been a while I haven't done this, so let me see. Let's time box that to 2 minutes, and if I don't figure it out, then we are not gonna do that. So yeah, see this, how do I use custom Spring Data Neo4j based repositories? Just checking real quick. Oh, there is a typo I need to fix as well. Or you can do it, by the way, dear viewers. If you want to fix that typo, maintainers will be happy. So that's a custom repository, but that's not really what I want to do. That's more something on repositories. So let me check real quick if I can find it again. I know it's used to, I mean, before I joined Neo4j, the only knowledge I had about Spring Data Neo4j was around Spring Data Neo4j 3, a little bit of Spring Data Neo4j 4, so it was a long while ago. And obviously things have changed in between. Working with Spring Data Neo4j repositories, actually, yeah, it's custom implementations. And our fragment, yeah, so actually that's part of Spring Data Commons, so it's common to all Spring Data projects. So yeah, obviously it's before the specific bits of the documentation. So what do you do? What do we do? Interface, customize, blah, 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 blah. Implements. The most important part of the class name here, so okay, that hasn't changed. So that's great to see. It hasn't, the mechanism is more or less still the same than it was a few years ago. Interface for custom repository. So let's read through it. So you introduce an interface with some custom stuff that you will implement yourself, and that's what we're gonna do. The implementation shell does not depend on Spring Data and can be a regular Spring Bean, so far so good. So I can inject, for instance, Neo4j template. Here, it's a talkable JDBC template because we are not in a specific part of the docs. Those are common to all Spring Data projects, hence the JDBC reference. And then I just need to add my super interface here. Super in the sense of great, sorry about that. So yeah, that's that hasn't changed, that's great. So we're gonna do that. We're gonna do that. We're gonna implement a fragment, and I had the term right. I'm so happy I didn't remember it was called fragment. It is a fragment, which means I don't need a service. Actually, a fragment is more than enough. Let me see. Maybe it's telling me something. Nope. Okay, cool. Like if I say something really stupid, my colleagues would tell me, "Hey, please shut up and and rephrase what you just said." But no, not the case. So great. So far, I'm gonna test drive this. So we are gonna have Cipher DSL connector repository, custom repository. So that's not a great name, but we don't care. And I'm gonna use, as I used before, test containers. So I'm just gonna copy paste everything because copy paste is life and also a big source of bugs. Ain't bugs fun. The same configuration I need. So I'm gonna need Neo4j 4.2. Yeah, that's great for now because that's the latest major version. At the time of recording this, which is not recorded, which is actually live, just to send mixed signals to make you believe I actually recorded it beforehand. But nope. Otherwise, the quality would probably be a bit better. So I have this test, an Neo4j container that started automatically. Then I use this Spring framework annotation to instruct the Spring application context to be configured with those from the Neo4j container, because the port is dynamic. So we don't have any choice. We have to configure this once the container is ready, not before. So it has to be dynamic, and that's great because it's only a few lines of code. And then finally, yeah, that doesn't hurt to clean up everything after each test. I mean, everything, every data. I don't clean up constraints or indices, but that's probably something I should do. And for that, I need a driver, because yeah, I don't need anything else for that specific cleanup. So yeah, maybe some people will introduce a superclass for the test and hide all of that there. For now, I don't really care. It's just a small project, and that's probably disposable. Disposable code. We'll see if we expose it to an API and push it. Yeah, actually, I might. So 29 minutes left to do this. Great. So what do I want to do? As I said, I want to find repositories. Find connectors by language and transport, with the super fragile heuristic that language is found because it's part of the URI. Obviously, that's not gonna work all the time. Maybe it will never work, but for now, that's good enough. Jupyter, yes. So not JUnit 4, I'm using JUnit 5 because it's great. So what do I need? Well, I will need my specific implementation, and I just want to check one thing. I think I can inject this, so we will see. So I will auto-wire. I will ask for the interface, and Spring Framework will find the matching implementation. So the interface will be the same name. Oops, except here I forgot a test suffix. Test. Yes. Thank you. Actually, yeah, I will just call it a custom repository for now. Connector. Yeah, that's great. Cool. And of course, it doesn't exist yet, but I will probably do something like this. Connector, find by language and transport. So the thing would be, for instance, PHP and driver transport. Connector transport, sorry. Because I renamed everything before the stream, because I kept saying over the last few weeks, driver, but connector is actually a better name for it, because it doesn't have to be a Bolt driver. It can be an HTTP connector. So the connector, in my opinion, makes more sense. If you don't agree, feel free to protest in the comments. I will happily ignore them. Transport type, and let's say Bolt. So for fun, we are gonna also write some stuff into the database first. We are gonna do some. Yeah, I could use a repository, but it's a bit cheating. So how did I do before I use a repository? Yeah, I tested the save method. I use a template. I'm not gonna use a driver because it's a bit too low level and verbose. I'm also gonna use a Neo4j template. Yeah, I'm using everything. I'm not using Neo4j client though, but let's use Neo4j template just to pre-insert some data. So I'm gonna insert I'm gonna insert three things. One with PHP in the URL and supporting Bolt, one with PHP in the URL supporting HTTP, and one without PHP in the URL and whatever transport. And I should get only one result, right? So yes, of course, I still copy-paste the same wrong thing. So let's do this. We're going to do template.save, and save of what? Of a connector. Connector is what? Is a URI. So I'm just going to do this example.com/create PHP driver. It's it's not official. It's and then I need a list of. We have list of? Yes, right? Nope. Yes. 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 Cool. Because it's been introduced in Java 9. I'm in Java 11. Yay. List of what? Of list of connected supported transport. So everything is going to be new. Connected supported transport, which take a transport. So that's a bit ugly, but we're going to go through it. And this one will take bolt. And it also takes a version, I believe. So where am I? I'm lost in parentheses. I'm almost writing a Lisp at this point. Yeah, bolt. Okay, bolt, it makes sense to a version, so I'm just going to access the latest one. It's a bleeding edge PHP driver. Okay, so that's my first one. So for now, it's a bit ugly, but I'm going to keep it like that for now. So that's my first. Is that the one I should have in the results? So this one I care, so I'm going to cheat a little bit and extract it because I believe equal / code is properly implemented. Yes, that's great. Then I will save something else, something which supports HTTP, and empty list is going to be fine. See, I can statically import it because empty list is clear enough on its own. There is PHP in the name, like another great PHP connector, let's say, because driver makes more sense with both, in my opinion, but maybe you don't agree. And then the last one would be a great airline connector. And it can support bolt for all I care. And here we go. So it's many lines of code. I could reduce it and have some helpers, hiding some of the bits. But so given I have a connector with PHP in the URI and supporting bolt, given I have a connector with PHP in the URI, but that supports HTTP, and another without PHP in the URI that supports bolt, I should only get this one. So that should give me a list of connector. And at the end, I should have only this. I thought that connector. And again, I'm pretty sure I could have written the query with the repository naming conventions. So I wouldn't actually need to go through the Cipher DSL implementation, but just for the fun of it. So bear with me. So I've got this content exactly, which checks the size and the content. So it will check for only one, that is this one. Something like expected connector or something. Yeah, who cares? Boom. So I have three connectors in my database because I have three saved. I call my specific custom repository. Obviously, this method does not exist yet. So it's not. Nope. Create it, come on. Why would you rename the reference? Why are you doing this to me? Oh, because the type does not exist. Create a class in SFML Java, yes, please. And that's going to actually be an interface. The important bit is there is some naming convention here. So first, let me make sure it compiles before I talk too much. Boom. So language and transport type. Okay, so I have my interface. The compiler should be happy, but of course, that's not solved yet because, and I'm pretty sure I can bet something. Let's bet actually nothing because I have no idea what to bet, and betting is not appropriate. But anyway, the thing it's just gonna fail because, as IntelliJ already there's a bit of a spoiler alert here. There is no implementation candidate for this Spring Bean. So I have the interface, I have nothing to match the implementation for. So let's see it for real. Let's see it blow up, like with a scary stack trace telling us, come on, I cannot find any candidate for this interface. But obviously starting the container first, because who doesn't love to wait a couple of seconds before seeing an obvious error? And so here we go, scrolling. And yeah, it's telling me a bunch of things, but unsatisfied dependency exception, error creating name with Cipher DSL, because if we dig a little more, no such bin definition exception, there is no qualifying bin for this interface. So basically it's telling me there is nothing I can inject because there is no implementation matching this interface. That's true. That's completely true, my friend. So let's create a class based on the important bit, as the documentation says, because we always read the documentation and we should. So the most important part of the class name that corresponds to the fragment interface is the EMPL prefix, which obviously stands for Impala. So let's create a class. So like this, but with this. And there is no need to tag it as a component, so as a Spring Bean. Eligible for injection, just the naming is enough. And obviously this implementation, as its example, with implement the interface. And of course, the interface is this, and I need to implement it. So boom, return now, perfect. That's enough to make my test fail a little further. So now Spring framework should be happy. It should find my bin, I hope. I think it should work. And then I can go on with the implementation and fix the test. 19 minutes left. Or maybe not, so let's see. Okay, how do I test this in isolation then? The implementation itself does not depend on Spring Data and can be a regular Spring Bean. So I know I can use dependency injection in there, but how do I test the fragment in isolation? And actually now I'm thinking, I'm a bit stupid, which is new. If you've been following the series, I've done a bunch of mistakes already. Instead of testing this at the fragment level, because I plan to aggregate the fragment to the repository, let's actually move this test to the repository test, because that's the target. I don't care about the fragment alone. The fragment alone is useless unless it is aggregated to the repository. So I don't have a custom repository, I just have this. And obviously it doesn't compile yet, so let me get rid of this. I don't know why I tried to do this in isolation. But anyway, and so now I have to fix it. And to fix it, I need to go back to my connector repository and add the custom thingy. Cipher DSL, custom repository. Boom. Compiler error fixed. So I already fixed the problem with the custom implementation, so Spring should not complain about this. But then, of course, I'm return null in my implementation, so that's never going to work. So I should see something like null is not accepted because assert.j doesn't like null for the assertions on collections. So let's see that, and then let's write the implementation with Cipher DSL and Neo4j template, because Spring Data Neo4j loves Cipher DSL and vice versa. Boom. Okay, now doesn't work, obviously. So let's try to fix it. So yeah, of course, if you write a fragment, don't test. I mean, you can test a fragment in isolation with a real unit test, like mocking everything else. If you want to write an integration test, don't isolate on the fragment like I was trying to do, because it's kind of pointless. Test it through the repository, because that's the destination. The fragment is supposed to be attached to your repository. So do that, and don't try to do just like I tried. And let's go, finally, you've been all waiting for that, I'm sure. Let's go with Neo4j template. So I believe by default there is no need to annotate a single constructor anymore for dependency injection. So I will in Neo4j template because I say so. And then we are going to use the nice combo of Cipher DSL and Neo4j template for the win and for fun. And fun is the win anyway, so I'm gonna It's been standing for 45 minutes and I've been running at noon under the warm sun, so I'm a bit tired. I'm gonna cheat and put my knee on the chair. Anyway, so Neo4j template, what do I need? I need Neo4j template dot find all statement. Oh, nice. What's a statement? Let's have a look at this. Statement. What is a statement? And then, oh, surprise, what is a statement? Oh, it's part of Neo4j DSL. Nice. I don't need to give strings anymore, and that's the whole point. So that's why Spring Data Neo4j has a nice integration point. You don't have to give raw strings anymore. You just use the Typesafe API, and then you are sure that whatever you are building as a statement will end up being syntactically correct, because Cipher DSL strives for correctness. Doesn't mean that your query makes sense for the business case you're solving. That's another problem, but obviously you won't have any typo or formatting issues because you don't have to take care of these anymore. So that's real great. And obviously I will use this particular, so you might not see because it's too small, but the find all, there are a few versions of it. There is a few overloads of it. I will take the third one in the list, which takes a statement, so Cipher DSL statement instead of a string, a map of parameters, and the class of the domain, because Neo4j template is entity aware. So I will fetch connectors. So I will have some kind of statement. I will have some kind of parameters, and I care about connectors. Boom. Okay. And then I should return this, and all should be well. Or should it? It returns the list, right? Nice, it doesn't show it. Yes, it's a list of T, and T is connector, so that's all I need. Parameters, let's start with this because it's easy. It's a map of string to object, I guess. Yes. So new hash map, or is there a map of? I guess there is. Yes, of course there is a map of. Java 9 plus for the win. I will have a map of language, and transport. Actually, yeah. Oops. Come on. Yes, thank you. And transport type dot name is probably fine. And I'm just gonna normalize it a little bit to lowercase, but based on the always specify locale. Locale. I'm not sure how you say it. I'm gonna say locale, probably wrong, but you understand me. Always specify one, because in some languages, putting something to lowercase might lead to undesired behavior. Looking at you, especially Turkish language, where there is two versions of I, that there is not in English, for instance. One of the first bugs I had to solve in my career. Very interesting. Parameters, PHP application anyway. There was we were trying to lowercase an I, but then it was a dotless I in Turkish and not the dotted I that we all know. Cool, strings. So we have parameters, and now comes the big moment of building a statement. And statement starts with Cipher. That's my entry point. So I'm trying to match. I'm trying to match what? I'm trying to match a node, and I'm figuring it out as we go. I'm really improvising here. So the primary label is connector. So I renamed the label as well because I don't have any DB in production. I could actually return a liquid-based migration to go from driver to connector, but who cares? Named as, because that's gonna make our life easier. So it's C. I'm looking for connectors, named with properties. So that's going to be a bit different. So let me returning then, I guess, returning C. So that's part of my statement, and I need to build it. Okay, so that's part of it. For now, I'm just returning all connectors, so that's not going to work. So now I need a where. where what? Where Cipher.property, I guess. Property of what? Of my node here. Connector node. Our connector is great because type is node, so we don't need to be redundant. I'm matching the connector, and I'm interested in the property called URI. Is that right, or is that not right? It's maybe not right. So let's look at the documentation. Improvisation is nice up until a point. So that's the basic example, but we're doing something slightly more complicated, but good for us. We have a ton of examples in the doc. So as I was telling, for Spring projects, but for any projects, read the docs. Always lots and lots of things to learn there. So released, how is it done? So we have this node and property. Okay, yes. So that's something I want like this. I have a node, and then I can tell, hey, this property should be blah, blah. Okay, so that's based on the node itself and not a global entry point. So connector.property of URI contains, I believe, is yes. And I have Cipher, as you can see in the example here, Cipher literal off, and then it will figure out the proper type, Cipher literal, come on, literal off what? Of language. So that's the first part. That's, I'm matching all connectors from which the URI contains the lowercase language. I wonder if I can do something like lowercase property as well. Can I do this? Is there a lowercase? Nope. Lowercase? Nope. Maybe, is there two lowercase? What can I do? I'm learning, really. I'm learning as I'm going here. Or maybe contains ignore case would be nice as a shorthand. Or maybe I can do Cipher lowercase. Nope. Well. So let me have a look. Let me extract the property for now. URI, and what can I do on this? URI dot get container. So that's based on the thing. Get name, get names. Yeah, no, I'm not seeing. I'm probably missing it. So that would be great. But for now, for given the test I've written, it's probably fine. We'll worry about that later. And of course, by the way, that's my statement. So maybe I should do this. And why is it unhappy? Cannot resolve da 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 da. Oh yeah, because it should be object here. Okay, so let's see the test fail a bit further even than before, because my query is not complete yet. It will match all connectors. So if we look at my data set in the test, it will match everything that's got the lowercase language in the URI. So that will match my first one, which is great because that's the one I want, but it will also match the second one, which is not great because I'm not matching transport types yet. So hopefully we should see that the list has actually two items when we expect only one. And then we'll try to figure out, so the lowercase thing, I can look for it later. It's a minor detail. And that's something we can learn by taking some time to read the documentation and not live streaming without reading. I mean, I read it a little bit, but I forgot that detail. So the test is failing, which is not a surprise. Oh, it's still empty. That's not what I expected. I'm saving the connectors. And why? URI, in that case, contains PHP. It should return me something, really? That's strange. Let me rerun it. So that's always good to, check before the implementation is complete that you're on the right track, and it seems not in my case. So that's also why I like to take a break, make sure that even if it's not complete, it fails in the way I expect. Oh, but wait, maybe I misread this. Yeah, no, except the list is empty. So what did I miss here? What did I miss? So maybe let's take a tiny step back first. Let's do this. Let's remove the where. So it should return with a 3 node, right? Because there should be 3 nodes. If not, then there is something wrong with the template. With the usage, the way I'm using template, I mean. So in that case, I've got oh, so there might be some equality problems because it tells me that the driver has not been found. Also, it's there. Yeah, so there is an equality hashcode problem. That's interesting. Oh yeah, because I have not, yeah, okay, I know why. Because I have not fetched in my query, I'm just matching the nodes, I've not fetched the supported transports. Ooh, I forgot about that tiny detail as well. Okay. Um, well, I don't really, I could, let me cheat a little bit. I'm just gonna say it has size 1, so it will fail here, and that connectors, well, try to do next. Connector. I hope it doesn't clash with the other one now. And I said that connector comparing how is equal to how do we do field by field stuff? Using comparator for fields. What was it? I don't remember. It's been a while. As field property. No field or properties. Oops. Let's also J equals field by field. Yeah, something like that. Field by field. Is equal to comparing only given fields. Perfect. That's what I wanted. So I'm gonna cheat and I'm gonna ignore. Expected connector. And I'm gonna just focus on that, and that's probably good enough for now. I'm not gonna fetch the relationships. Oops, it's deprecated, so what should we use instead? Using recursive comparison and specify the fields to ignore. So let's do that. Using recursive comparison, ignoring actual. Yeah, I like that because it should work as well. Is equal to, I guess would be enough, is equal to expected connector. I'm going to ignore the null field, which are the relationships. Well, that's maybe not the best way to deal with this, but and I'm going to sit, by the way, because I'm getting tired standing. Okay. All right. So hopefully that should help a little bit. Also, the hash size is going to fail anyway, but yes, so size not 3. All right. Hopefully that will work. And so the next thing is to understand what's going on. So I expected this one to work, but it does not. So let me read the docs on contains. Maybe I'm misunderstanding contains because it could be for our list. Wait, what? Come on, contains. No, okay. As usual, IntelliJ bugs on me. Opens me another class. Okay. Evaluate into a string. Conditions contains. Conditions content, that's interesting. Actually, I could use that. Conditions contains. Yep. So connector creates condition between this and expression. So I don't get why it's not URI should contain language. Language is PHP. Oh, in lowercase. I forgot to lowercase it. I did it and then I removed it, which is why it didn't work. Oh, but no, actually it should be a parameter instead of doing that. Come on, I'm messing everything up. So parameter is already there. Cipher, parameter, language. So yeah, sorry, completely my fault. Brain fart. I have a parameter here. Actually, I'm going to put it before the statement so it makes more sense. We have language, we have transport. My statement uses the parameter language, and URI should contain this. Okay, so now the size assertion should fail still, but include only two connectors and not 3, because the last one does not contain PHP in the URI. And I'm going to take some extra time. I'm going to go beyond the hour, and sorry, it's the case anyway. I'm really going to try to fix this to find the last part, which would be, so now it's size 2, so that's great. That's exactly what I wanted. But now I need to check the transport. So that's going to be a bit tougher, because if we look at our graph again, let's look at this. Connector supports a list of connected supported transports. So that's a relationship, and it's connected, so supports connector transport, which has a value. So in short, if I had to write it here, connector supports a bunch of, I believe it was called, that's a relationship, the node is transport. So that's what I want to do. And the protocol name itself is in value here. So here I filter on the URI of this one, and I want to check the value of the transport, because the value, it's a enumeration, but it's either that or that. So let's try this. I have a node which is a connector, and then it's connected to or relationship to another node. So I'm just going to cheat and do that. Transport T. Where blah, 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 blah. So that's my first thing. I believe, can I repeat where or not? Does it do an end if I do this? No. So I need to combine conditions. So I guess there is an end. Yes. Maybe it will, I don't know. I'm just throwing random ideas. Maybe repeating where could equal to end, actually. But that's another discussion. And transport dot transport, except I need the property. So the property is what? Is transport.property. The property is named connected transport, connected supported transport, connected transport. The property name is value, and is equal to a parameter called, actually I'm gonna static import this because it's a bit ugly. If I look at my migration, liquid-based migration, I use uppercase, sorry about this. But here, in any case, name will just respect the enum stuff. So that's gonna be great. So let me get rid of the class names where it makes sense. Match also, I can get rid of it. Boom. So that looks nice in my opinion, like connector URI contains, and then it will refer to the parameter here. Same thing with equal to transport, returning C, build, and boom. And we have our first Cipher DSL example aggregated through the fragment support of Spring Data commands to our repository. So now let's see, hopefully I've not messed up this one and the test will pass. Let's see. But I like how intuitive the API is. It's really great. So thank you, Gerrit and Michael, for working on this and publishing this. It's great. It's much better than raw strings. So I've not shown everything, actually. Obviously, I've not shown the whole capabilities of the DSL, but yeah, the test passes. Yes, yes. I could go a bit further and, to fetch all the relationships. So I could change the returning a little bit, just to return the hydrated connectors, with the relationships, but we can do that. I mean, it's not gonna change much what I've covered today. But cool, yes, that works. And obviously we can do even better. And okay, so I promise I'm gonna talk about next week. Then we're gonna do even better and use the static meta model, because you can see here there's a slight drawback. I mean, it's better than using raw queries, that's for sure. But I still have to go back and forth between my entity and the code here, because I don't remember the property names, etc., etc. And it's a pity, right? Because Spring Data Neo4j has already everything built in to understand the shapes of my entities. So why do I need to tell that myself? I mean, that's more or less the issue in a nutshell, that is solved, in my opinion, by the static meta model support of the Cipher DSL. So there is a specific support for Spring Data Neo4j, basically Spring Data Neo4j metadata. So we're going to look at that next week, and then maybe only that next week. So it might be shorter than today. And then in 2 weeks, in that case, I will talk about Spring Data Neo4j 5/OGM and Spring Data Neo4j 6, because as you might know, those are quite different projects. I mean, they share the same name, but the approach has changed quite a bit. So migrating from Spring Data Neo4j 5 to Spring Data Neo4j 6 is not always obvious. Although I want to say, and I want to insist again, that the reference documentation is quite nice in that regard and documents many things. So please, please, please read the reference documentation. There's been much love doing it. So read it. It's very useful. It's well documented. The design decisions, especially the differences with Spring Data Neo4j 5, are well explained. So take some time, really. It's not a wasteful investment. Invest some time in it, and then you will understand things much better. So sorry, I went over a little bit of the hour, but yeah, I'm happy that we have a not too dummy example of a Cipher DSL usage. Also, again, it could have been solved with the naming convention of repositories, but that at least give us some experience with Cipher DSL, and we've learned about it all together. So I'm quite happy with that. So thank you. I'm gonna stop there for today. So thank you. Thanks a lot for joining the call, and I will see you next week. In the meantime, please stay safe in this weird period that hopefully will be over at some point. I mean, it's not the same situation in every country, but yeah, I can't wait for in-person meetings and conferences, etc., etc. So yes, thanks a lot, and I hope I will see you soon. Bye-bye.